Welcome back. This is Annie with Family Homesteading in West Texas. We are dedicating a lot of time to the garden this week. We have fall beds to get ready. We have compost to move. Good morning, YouTube friends. I am out in the garden this morning. We have a lot to get done in the garden this week, so we're going to take a couple of hours every morning before it gets hot to tackle the things we need to get done in the garden. We need to get some of our old cucumbers pulled. They're starting to die back, and we're going to plant fresh cucumbers. We still have enough of the growing season left so that we can plant new cucumbers. We will get our fall beds ready for carrots. We also have our garden where we planted some beans and pumpkins that needs to get tilled because there's lots of weeds in there. So we'll get all that done, but we're going to do a couple of hours every morning. As well, we're going to harvest some of our long day and intermediate day onions, and in that place we're going to plant some tomatoes for fall. So let's get this all tackled. We have a lot to get done. We will start by picking some cucumbers that are ready to pick. So the children have started harvesting the onions, and I'll be picking tomatoes now. So I would usually not pick a tomato that's not quite ripe, but we have had a good rain a week ago, and now they started splitting up like this, and I believe it's because they got too much water at the same time. So I'm just picking these and let them ripen in the house before they will split up even more. I picked a full bucket of tomatoes. Some of them aren't quite ripe, but they will ripen in the house. We're trying to minimize our tilling, but that is just a quick way to get rid of a lot of weeds. Good morning. So we're out in the garden. We're getting an early start today. It has been very hot for the last couple of days. So we're just getting an early start. We're going to tackle some more weeds, get more beds ready for fall planting. This is an area we're all dreading to look at, so we're tackling this first. But on the brighter side, there is always something more excited to do. I'm constantly planting different things. Radishes is one of them. This is actually the first year our radishes are doing well, and I think this is the 6th time I am planting radishes this year, and they have done very well. We have really enjoyed them. The thing I'm doing different with radishes, I'm actually covering them up with straw after putting a little bit of soil on there, and they're coming up in a couple of days and growing very fast. So in about a month we would have fresh radishes again. That's the shortest crop I can think of right now that we're growing. Good morning from the garden this morning. It is Friday morning. I had said that we were going to dedicate about 2 hours every day in the garden this week, and that's exactly what we did. We did tackle a lot of weeds. This is the patch where we had potatoes in the spring, and now we planted pumpkin, corn, beans, and some cantaloupe, although the beans, almost none of them came up. But it was so full of weeds here, and we did clean this whole area, and we also got some of the beds ready for fall. Let me show you. Okay, first let me show you. This is where the onions, the long day and the intermediate day onions are growing. We did harvest some. We harvested enough so that we could plant some of our fall tomatoes. You see this plant, it looks a little bit sad. This is a volunteer plant that came up in the garden, and it was getting a little bit too big to transplant already, but we did still transplant it, and it's gonna make it. It's just gonna take a little time. And then this one here, same thing. It's a volunteer plant that came up on its own. We transplanted. And then I have these tiny plants here that I started indoors, and they were not doing good indoors, so I thought I was just gonna give it a try. I planted them in a garden 2 days ago, and we will just see if they will survive or if they will actually produce any tomatoes. We still have some onions left here, and we're just waiting for them to finish off, and then we're going to pull them all out. We have cucumbers that we can pick today, quite a bit of them. These are still old plants. We did plant some new ones over on this side, This is a new plant because the old ones are starting to die back. So I did plant quite a few new ones. There's a very tiny one right here. And we still have quite a bit of growing season left. So we should have a lot of time for cucumbers yet. And it looks like we will be picking lots of okra today. This is actually a little bit bigger than I like them. But it seems that you can almost not pick them often enough. They just grow very fast. Now this is not looking pretty, so let's get some better use into this bed. So we put fresh compost down for every crop that we're planting. Even though we put compost down in the spring, we do it again for the fall. It is so important for the soil. Now this is the area where we done a lot of work this week. It was a jungle in there, as you saw before in the short video. We did take out all the weeds and we took them out. We're gonna burn them because they already went to seed. And then we spread compost in here. And this is the bed where we had cabbage and broccoli in the spring. Although our broccoli didn't do very well, we're gonna plant cabbage and broccoli hopefully on Monday. We are going to put drip tape down, and then I have decided to put a weed barrier in here because I just don't like how many weeds I had to fight this last summer. So we will see how that's gonna work. And let's not forget about the tomatoes. That's one of the things that I enjoy most about in the garden. You see there's some red ones, so I need to pick tomatoes. And these plants have been giving us so many tomatoes. The bottom leaves don't look so good, but I do not think that it's like a disease or anything like that. It's just old leaves. So I've decided we're going to put a little bit of fertilizer down by the roots today. I'm not using a synthetic fertilizer. We will be using rabbit manure. The garden is the reason that we have rabbits. Rabbit manure doesn't need to be composted. You can use it straight from the coop. But for the size of a garden we need quite a few rabbits. I think we have 11 of them now, and they gave us quite a bit of good compost, good fertilizer for the garden. Okay, so I have some rabbit manure that I got out of the rabbit cage. There's some straw in here, so I will just put some of this stuff right down here by the roots of the tomatoes. So we're putting the drip tape underneath the weed barrier, and then we're going to connect it to a cheap garden hose that we have cut into the length that we needed it. We use fittings and then connect the drip hose to the fitting, and then we can easily water a big patch of the garden at the same time. Alright, so we're all ready for the weed barrier now, and hopefully this will help us to not have to fight so many weeds this time. And I'm putting these cinder blocks on the edge of the weed barrier just to keep it down so that it wouldn't blow away. And we were kind of going back and forth on this bed and working on other stuff, so we can still get all the things done that need to get done. Alright, so our cabbage and broccoli bed actually is ready for next week for planting. So excited. So we use a little torch to burn some holes in there so that we can plant the little seeds into the holes. We covered the seeds up with some potting soil that I've got, and then we're ready to water this area and see how soon they will come up. I've been talking quite a bit about compost when I'm doing gardening videos, so today I also want to talk a little bit more about what kind of compost do we use. So this pile you see here, that is from the pig pen. There's a lot of straw and sand in it. But that pile, I just wanted to let it compost for a good while, since some people say that you could carry parasites from the compost to your garden. I'm just gonna let it age for a good while. And it's probably about, 6 months old right now. We're probably gonna use it next spring. Now this pile here, that is cow manure and also some bedding in there. and that has composted quite well. We are using from this pile in the garden now. We still have quite a bit left. We are probably going to spread most of the compost in the garden when the garden is done for winter. But we have another compost pile, and that is this one, and I call this the kitchen scrap compost pile. And there is straw, turkey manure, and different things in there, but a large portion of it is kitchen scraps, paper shreddings, leaves, and so on. And this compost pile is, I think, about 4 months old. We have turned it a couple of times, but we haven't been very consistent with it. And the reason for that is because we were not really in need of compost at the time. What we're doing is we're building this compost pile. So after we did the first part of building the compost pile up, it did shrink down a lot. So we were able to put more kitchen scraps into the pile as we go. So every time I had like a container full of coffee grounds, I would have just dumped it in here, or eggshell that I didn't give to the chickens, or different things. Also, we do chicken feathers, and you see there's tea bags in there. All that stuff goes into the compost pile. And today we are going to turn this compost, see how the bottom looks. We're going to wet it down. We're going to take the ring off. I like the ring for the first part when the compost is not very much composted, that it stays into a pile better. But now we're going to take the ring off, and we are going to just make a pile, and we are going to try to be more consistent with moving this, and it should be ready in a couple of weeks. So let me show you what this compost pile is made of. So we put the ring together. So it has these little holes in these little things that are called keys that go in there to keep it together. We put it up, and then we're ready to start filling it up. So turkey manure is one of them that we put in there. We had some old leaves saved up, and that's also one of them that goes in there. So we put the dry stuff in the bottom. Paper shreddings that we have shredded from some cardboard that we had left over. And yes, kitchen scraps that were in the freezer. I save them up in the freezer, and then when I'm ready to build a compost pile, I take them all out, and we're building a compost pile. So we kind of layer it. We put leaves, paper shreddings, and then we put kitchen scraps, coffee grinds, more leaves and paper shreddings, and then we just continue to go till the ring is all the way filled up. And after the compost pile has shrunken down a lot, we added some bedding from the brooder that we were cleaning out. We also added a lot of water. Since all the leaves and paper shreddings were very dry, we need to make sure that everything is moist. And after just 24 to 48 hours, it's starting to heat up, and it's getting pretty hot. And that's exactly what we're looking for. That way it'll compost really nice, and we'll get some good fertilizer for the garden. So we're topping it off with dry stuff, leaf, and so on, and then it's done. So now after 4 months of sitting there, it's time to move and see how it looks now. This compost pile could be ready by now if we would have been consistent with moving and watering it down, but we sure weren't, and it's not quite ready yet. And I just want to say to anybody out there that doesn't have a yard tractor, we didn't start here. We started making compost by moving it by hand. We used a pitchfork and a shovel. That's how we moved our compost pile. It's a lot of work, but it is possible to do. We would also sometimes put a tarp over top after we're done moving. That helps to keep the moisture in, and it's especially important for drier areas like our area. We hardly get any rain, and it's super hot, so it dries out very quick. We will just continue to move this every 2 or 3 days, water it down maybe 2 times a day, and we'll have some good compost in not too long. So this is how this compost pile looks. We got it moved. It's not as composted as I thought it would be. So this just might take a full month of dedicated moving and wetting it down. And it is very hot and dry right now, so we will probably have to wet it down twice a day from the top, and then we'll move it, I think, twice a week, and then we'll have some more good compost in about a month. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, leave us a comment, and like our videos. See you next time. Bye.